welcome to another edition of the Beta Ellis videos in the English-speaking language, conveying to you the cutting-edge research that has been done in the field of energy medicine and bioresonance, and also allowing you to access the various devices that Beta Ellis produces for healing. You will be able to see these on the website, the betaellisuk.com website. Today, we're going to look at what is quantum theory and what relationship does this have with consciousness and healing. This goes well beyond the mechanistic approach to healing that is more interested in identifying symptoms and then suppressing them with drugs or other medical procedures. It will be interesting to see that our own consciousness can actually cause and perpetuate symptoms as well as heal them permanently. When we enter the quantum fields, the microscopic universe, we need to immerse ourselves into the fascinating subatomic level where particles tend to behave very differently to what their larger cousins do. The microscopic universe begins at about 10 billionth of a meter, which is about the size of an atom. Matter behaves very differently at this size, and scientists have called it quantum theory. All matter is energy. We will keep on hearing this time and time again because it is a fact. Physical matter does not really exist. It is all frequency and information. The real substance of the universe is ultimately consciousness. What's the nature of the universe? Well, scientists, quantum physicists, are discovering that about 70% of the universe is made up of dark energy, which is non-atomic, so non-measurable. This dark energy is critical to holding together all of the galaxies. Only less than 5% of the universe is normal matter that is measurable. The universe holds many mysteries and will continue to do so for many eons to come. Let us touch on some of the very basics of quantum theory. The fascinating thing about studying quantum subatomic particles is that they behave very differently from the normal ones, to the point where quantum physicists are still lost for words to explain their behavior. Subatomic particles can, for example, be invisible. They can actually go through solids. They can be in multiple places at exactly the same time, and that could be millions of miles apart. They can seemingly go backwards in time and space and change the past. And they can also resonate with each other over incredible distances. Another phenomenon that quantum physicists have discovered is that known as quantum entanglement. What happens to one particle in one position in space can instantly affect another particle millions of miles away. This is indeed a further unsolved mystery of the quantum world. The two particles become entangled so that the behavior of one immediately affects the behavior of the other in zero time and space, even though they may be thousands of miles apart. This suggests that information travels instantaneously, faster than the speed of light, from one particle to another. This obviously has implications for our lives, as our consciousness can influence these particles. Example, praying for someone at the other end of the world, spontaneous remission, from chronic diseases, miracles in inverted commas, and other divine events. Quantum entanglement may one day help people communicate instantly over vast distances. It will also help scientists to build new quantum computers. One of the very first and most famous of all experiments that had quantum physicists baffled is called the double slit experiment. It was conducted more than a century ago and was one of the first experiments to bring to light the quantum entanglement phenomena. Scientists shone light that passed through two slits with a screen behind it. It basically showed how one object can be in two places at the same time. Under normal circumstances, the electrons would go through each slit, forming predictable patterns on the board behind the slits, like you can see in the diagram here. Imagine that we are throwing baseballs, for example, through these two slits. Those baseballs will travel in a straight line and will hit the board on the back in a fairly predictable pattern. However, what the quantum scientists found was that sometimes the electrons going through one slit will form a diffraction pattern as if they were really two electrons going through both slits at the same time. So what was happening here, and how can this be explained? Can the electrons actually clone themselves? The probable answer is that the electron can be in two places at the same time. This is the quantum phenomena. What is happening and how it is happening is still a matter of debate. We can say that everything is non-locally connected. All things in nature are interconnected in a very fundamental way beyond time and space. The exchange of information between any two objects occurs instantaneously, no matter their space-time separation, and their interconnections cannot be shielded or attenuated. This really intrigued the quantum physicists. So they began observing, watching the behavior of the electrons in order to answer the question, how can one particle go through both slits at the same time? The results really astonished and surprised even the top quantum physicists in the world. What they found was that when they began actually observing or watching the particles, they behaved like particles should, forming predictable patterns on the screen, as you can see in the diagram, just like the baseball example. However, when scientists were not watching the electrons, they behaved not like particles, but like waves, forming interference patterns on the screen. This is really very strange. So the behavior of the observer was now adding an important variable that was affecting the behavior of the subatomic particles. It seems that the observer plays a large role in the results of the experiment. The actual observer is a variable that science does not often take into account, as it was not considered an important factor to date. So, just to summarize again, as this is an important aspect of quantum theory, when the scientists were observing or watching the particles, they behaved as particles should do. However, when they were not observing the subatomic particles, they behaved like a wave, forming diffraction patterns, but not both at the same time. It's as if we can change the behavior of subatomic or quantum particles based on whether our attention is focused on the phenomena or not. This is amazing, as learning to focus our attention to the quantum particles all around us can result in a completely different outcome. Scientists call this the quantum enigma. When this particle is not interacting with anything or anyone, then it becomes a wave and has no energy mass. It has lost its matter. It does not have a position in space and cannot be an empirical thing anymore. It has made a transition to a non-material part of the world, participatory, or the role of intention in conscious matter has demonstrable effects in quantum phenomena. It is as if the quantum matter is there waiting for us to give it our attention and ask of it what we want. But it must be done from the depths of our heart. It is the heart that really resonates and communicates with this quantum matter. How does observation actually change the nature and behavior of what is being observed? We don't know, is the answer. This is the mystery of quantum mechanics. If you want to learn more about consciousness, look up Dr. Deepak Chopra and listen to what he has to say. He's probably one of the world's leading experts in consciousness. There is a part of the world we cannot see. It does not consist of things, but of forms that are non-material. This non-material makes up more than 95% of all space. They are patterns of information. So what is this wave? It is potentiality, form and formless. This empty space is not empty, but is sometimes known as the great ether. It is dynamically active consciousness. All we need to do is focus our attention on this. Out of this quantum vacuum, countless universes come out of this. I repeat, out of this quantum vacuum, countless of universes come out of this. They can be reabsorbed into the universal consciousness. A cubic centimeter of empty space has enough mass energy to create the whole universe more than 3 times over. So with all the empty space around us, there is so much potential to create many universes right now. The Big Bang is occurring every moment of every day. So what is this wave? It is potentiality, form and formless. Pure potentiality seeking expression from the unmanifest to the manifest. And when we realize that our true self is one of pure potentiality, we align with the power that manifests everything in nature. This is the essence of consciousness. Einstein really struggled with the quantum phenomena, as it was contradictory to a lot of his mathematical equations. He said, quote, "I do not believe in quantum physics, as I believe the moon is there, even when I am not looking at it." No scientist really understands this. Einstein called it spooky action at a distance. However, in later life, he admitted anyone who becomes seriously involved in the pursuit of science becomes convinced that there is a spirit manifest in the laws of the universe, a spirit manifestly superior to that of man. There are other strange phenomena in quantum physics. Quantum physicists call this the uncertainty principle. We simply cannot know anything with absolute certainty. The most we can hope for in the quantum world is to calculate probabilities for where things are and how they will behave. Otherwise, everything is very iffy and very fuzzy. Another interesting but strange phenomenon observed with subatomic particles is that When scientists try to box in a particle, it will find the energy and the speed to break out. So scientists can never study it. This is again related to the uncertainty principle that says that nature will not allow its fundamental elements to be boxed in. It's as if every time we observe, nature kicks back, doesn't want us to study all this. Another fascinating observation is known as quantum tunneling. In the subatomic world, electrons and small particles may randomly go through a wall without bouncing back as one would expect from a particle hitting a wall. So this is strange again, because it's not obeying the classical laws of physics when you go down to the subatomic particle level, the quantum level. So how can this be possible? Maybe the subatomic particle is borrowing energy from the future to go through the barrier, and then it pays it back when it gets to the other side. Sounds strange. Certainly, the field of quantum mechanics is mind-boggling, to say the least, and it has baffled some of the top minds in the world today. So how crazy is that? The electron already is on the other side of the wall. Is space travel into the future a reality that is on our doorstep? The question is, what relevance does all this quantum theory have to us in our everyday world? Can quantum phenomena be achieved in our everyday world? If particles can be at two places at the same time, then we are also made of these tiny particles. So, can I be in two places at the same time? There are definitely reports from people seeing spiritual sages and abbots in two places at the same time. So it looks like they must have mastered the element of communication with this quantum world. Scientists call this the many worlds interpretation of quantum physics, explaining the unexplainable and achieving the unachievable. It appears that the universe is based on quantum principles, from the microscale of subatomic particles to the largest objects in the cosmos and everything in between. All matter displays the quantum characteristics of entanglement, coherence, correlation, and resonance. One explanation given by creative physicists is that anytime we need to act on two choices, we actually do both in two versions of the same reality. Let me just repeat that. One explanation given by quantum physicists is that uh, anytime we need to act on two choices, we actually do both in two versions of the same reality. So it's as if there are parallel universes, and we are making choices in one universe and choices in the other parallel universe. The mind boggles, as there could be many universes simultaneously. So quantum time and space can actually reverse events that have already happened, or at least prevent them from happening. It is indeed absolutely mind-boggling. There are parallel universes where real events took place in one universe, but not in another. Modern quantum theory has opened the door to a profoundly new vision of the cosmos, where the observer, the observed, and the act of observation are fundamental and interlocked. No more is the universe to be studied as a mechanical conglomerate of its parts. The interconnectedness of everything is particularly evident in the non-local interactions of the quantum universe, the matrix. It appears that on a quantum level, experience is retained in nature's memory, the quantum hologram. Once information is created, it is always available and never forgotten. We no longer need to learn, but simply remember and recall information. Another way of understanding the quantum phenomenon, every time you observe something in quantum space, you become two different copies of yourself. I can see you all nodding your heads. The first copy that got the answer and the other copy that got another answer. So we do live in a very weird world when we go down to the subatomic level. It does, however, explain a lot of interesting phenomena that people actually experience. Quantum theory has reached a point where the source of all matter and energy is a vacuum called dark energy. This makes up about 95% of the universe. It's a nothingness that contains all the possibilities of everything that has ever existed or could exist. Let me repeat that. It is a nothingness that contains all the possibilities of everything that has ever existed or could exist. It's a huge memory. These possibilities then emerge as probabilities before collapsing into localized quanta, manifesting as the particles in space and time that are the building blocks of atoms and molecules. Everything is potential until an event gives it form. Everything is potential until an event gives it form. One way that other scientists, philosophers, and some elect quantum physicists have encapsulated these concepts is to develop a unified theory of universal consciousness. All experience is created in consciousness, and the only way to explore this is through transcendence, through self-awareness, through self-reflection, through questioning perceptual reality, through making conscious choices. The more these scientists study quantum phenomena, the more they come to the conclusion that all experience is created in consciousness, which adds together to be part of the universal consciousness. The universe exists in consciousness as a perceptual experience. What unfolds is that the realization, after analyzing and all the mathematical equations that quantum physicists come up with, that there is only consciousness. You can't even say consciousness and its contents, because the contents of consciousness are actually patterns of behavior of consciousness itself. Therefore, the universe exists in consciousness as a perceptual experience. The body exists in consciousness as a perceptual experience. The mind exists in consciousness as a mental experience. There is only consciousness. If you were religious, you would say there is only God. What is consciousness? Consciousness is the ability to feel and experience. It is subjective awareness. It is the sense of selfhood and the executive control of the mind. Consciousness is being or existence. It is the ground of existence. It gives you selfhood and the control of your mind. It gives us the potential for all experience. Pure consciousness is non-symbolic. The only way to have a direct experience of consciousness is through self-awareness. The only way that consciousness can be known is through consciousness. Existence and awareness of existence are inseparable. Every act of perception is a mere snapshot. The world is only a mirror of what we perceive, our consciousness. Often, consciousness and spirituality are interlinked. So, what is spirituality? Spirituality is the progressive journey into self-awareness. Spiritual discipline is the only valid way of experiencing consciousness directly. So what are the elements of spirituality? Some call it a true religious experience. The first element is transcendence. For example, science would have to go beyond its reductionistic approach and reductionism to begin the journey of spiritual maturity. A second element of spirituality would be the Platonic values that emerge from this experience, i.e. truth, goodness, evolution, interconnectedness, love, compassion, joy, empathy. As you see, this amazing display of inseparability. These are inseparable from each other. And interestingly, the world seems to be moving in this direction, slowly but surely. Another element is the loss of the fear of death. If you are non-local, then you do not really die, but you return to potential before you become actual. Mind-boggling. Another element of spirituality is humility. It's variously seen as the act or posture of lowering oneself in relation to others, or conversely, having a clear perspective and respect for one's place in context. In a spiritual context, this can mean a recognition of self in relation to a deity, acceptance of one's defects, and submission to divine grace. And finally, another element is a deep reverence for existence. All that exists. Everything is consciousness. As one of our main interests in these broadcasts is to look at health, and particularly holistic health, then we can't help by interlinking what we've already been talking about, quantum theory and consciousness, with health. It has long been known by various researchers that specific internal feelings can have a direct effect on the immune system, for example, and can have consequences on infectious diseases and cancer and many other chronic diseases. In addition, we have also known that a shift in consciousness can cause a shift in biology, for better or for worse. If you are interested in following this pathway further, then it's highly recommended to see Dr. Bruce Lipton's videos on YouTube to get a better understanding of this. There are many recorded examples of shock experiences that are perceived as disastrous, causing cancers and heart attacks in a very short period of time. Conversely, there are many other examples of spontaneous remission, as many medics tend to call it, where a shift in consciousness has helped the person offload some of the worst chronic diseases, often in minutes. Now, modern biological medicine cannot explain these phenomena without adding the equation of quantum theory, quantum phenomena, and consciousness. Moreover, there is a lot of scientific research that has demonstrated that stress can cause physiological chaos by stimulating the secretion of neuropeptides in the brain that can adversely change your physiology, causing disease over time. There have been some interesting experiments that we will look at. Conversely, an internal state of euphoria, can secrete serotonin and oxytocin. These are neurotransmitter substances that are actual immune modulators. They help to boost the immune system and they help us to combat disease. This is science that has actually discovered this, conventional science. Mechanisms of disease are not origins of disease. The modern medical model often ignores how we think, how we behave, how we interact, our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, our desires, instincts, drives, memories. These are all part of the human biological mechanism, and they intimately interact with all the trillions of cells in our bodies. A holistic view of health inevitably has to pay attention to consciousness. We all have painful memories, painful experiences in life that cause very painful memories and pain in general. Failures, disappointments, suffering loss. These could be hidden away or suppressed in our body minds to be retrieved, reformed, and released, or ignored and left to fester, wounds that never heal. What John Upledger called a somato-emotional cyst. Interesting terminology. Somato-emotional cyst. A primitive body defense response in which the injury and the emotions therein encoded are walled off from the rest of the body and never truly resolved. And how many people with chronic diseases have somato-emotional cysts that are never addressed by the conventional medical fraternity? It's amazing to think of our glands, organs, tissues, and cells as storage places for emotion and memory. Yet this was given explanation through the scientific research of Dr. Candice Pert, a neuropharmacologist who worked at the NIH and Georgetown University Medical Center. She famously stated that your body is your subconscious mind. Your body is your subconscious mind. Our physical body can be changed by emotions we experience. This is what she meant. So every thought, every emotion, feeling, desire, every intention, every idea has its own molecule, which is called a neuropeptide. These are the molecules that brain cells communicate with each other, but they're not only present in the brain, they're also present in immune cells too. So extended grief, for example, in psychosomatic medicine, we know very well can lead to cancers. It's as if we have grieving immune cells. That grief or the energy of grief tends to be entrapped in the neuropeptides of the immune system. There's so immune cells also make neuropeptides. It's a thinking system. Our bodies are fields of ideas, notions, and concepts. Other organs have them too: the brain, the stomach, the skin, etc. By acknowledging emotions, they are expressed. In being expressed, emotions can be released. Even old emotions stored in body memory. Allowing my emotions to surface into awareness and to be able to name my emotions is the beginning of emotional exploration. I'm moving forward, trying to find my position within the family, within the community, and in life. So it's important not to allow the energy of these emotions to be entrapped in the neuropeptides. It's important to find ways of releasing. And there are many healing modalities and frequencies that can actually do this. All patterns of emotions are also stored in the ganglion of the spinal cord and in other parts of the autonomic nervous system. Interestingly, many people that have neurological problems, you would probably find, if we had the means of measuring these energies of various emotions and life traumas trapped in the nervous system, causing the nervous system to imbalance and dysfunction. There are many therapies that can help to release these trapped emotions and trigger healing chemicals to be released in our bodies. Some of these would include psychotherapy. Psychotherapy can be the difference between dying of a chronic disease or being released of the chronic disease once you release the energy of the trapped emotions in the neuropeptides. Meditation. Meditation is a very good way of quietening the mind, de-stressing, focusing our attention, disciplining ourselves. Shamanic work. The nature people, like shamans, they have an intuitive, instinctive feel for the world. They understand a lot of the dynamics that occur in family systems, in societal systems, in relationships between people, including their ancestors or our ancestors that may have passed to the other side, but still are part of the family energetically. Hellinger's family constellation work is also another example of this, where there can be tremendous amount of healing work done in a Hellinger family constellation. I'm actually a Hellinger family constellation facilitator, and I have seen incredible healing work in 1 hour of a family constellation that I would not have been able to achieve even in 6 months to a year of psychotherapy as a clinical psychologist. Prayer. How many times have people prayed for others and there have been miracles in inverted commas? This is all part of the quantum healing phenomena. We said that quantum healing takes place in 0 time and space, and it's non-local. belief in a higher power. How many people stay alive from believing in a higher power? It's another way of achieving some of the spiritual elements, such as humility, understanding that yes, we do have internal powers, but there is another higher power that maybe is the is I don't want to use the word controlling, but is putting everything in its place. So it goes beyond randomness. There seems to be a very intricate geometry and a very intricate self-controlling mechanism in the world at large on all levels. Massage therapists do not know the power that they have to release these entrapped emotions in the body and heal even the worst of chronic diseases. When a good massage therapist who's in tune with energies can help trigger and release the entrapped energies in a body, in a human being, then a tremendous amount of healing work can occur at that moment in time. The same with various types of body work, but there's also frequencies, because these energies, these emotions, are nothing more than frequencies. They are energies. So if we can find the resonant frequencies with these negative entrapped emotions, then it is another way of releasing them. And Dr. Ellis has a series of bioresonance devices that do have frequencies for various psycho-emotional states. And we know from the field of bioresonance that these do actually work. There was an interesting experiment to demonstrate quantum healing effects in the body by a researcher called Herbert Spencer, again from the NIH. And he did an experiment about 20 years ago when he was the head of molecular biology research at the National Institute of Health. He injected mice with polyseed, which is a chemical that basically stimulates the immune system. And then, at the same time, while exposing the mice to the polyseed, he got them to smell camphor. After a while, when the mice smelled camphor, their immune systems were activated without the need for the polyseed. And then Dr. Spencer gave some more mice cyclophosphamide, which is a nasty chemical which destroys the immune system. Once again, he paired the drug with the smell of camphor. When those mice smelled camphor without the chemical present, they became functionally immunodeficient, quickly developing pneumonia and dying when exposed to the pneumococci bacterium. Exposure to carcinogens also led to swift and certain death. However, exposure in the first group to various carcinogens and exposure to the pneumococci had absolutely no effect on their immune system. So what was the crucial difference between survival and death of these mice? Well, listen to this. It was the interpretation of memory of the smell of camphor. It was the interpretation of memory of the smell of camphor. This is all quantum healing just by pairing the memory of a drug, good or bad, with camphor. It is possible to develop a conditioned response that can affect the immune system and other systems of the body positively or negatively simply by smelling the camphor or the conditioned response. Another powerful example that most doctors have personally witnessed in hospital settings, and any doctors listening tonight will relate to this. If a patient believes that they are going to die, this is known as cognitive fusion, then if they carry this belief and cannot diffuse from it, then this will overcome whatever treatment is given them, however powerful the treatment may be. This is especially true in hospitalized patients because being in a hospital can be a very frightening experience for many patients. So they automatically go into an altered state of consciousness that dramatically interferes with executive function, resulting in extreme cognitive fusion. Unfortunately, the various drugs given to hospitalized patients compound the problem of the trance. Similarly, when patients are told by their oncologist, for example, or their doctors that they have 3 to 6 months to live because they may have been diagnosed with cancer or some other chronic disease, most comply and die within that period. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy that most doctors and oncologists should definitely be aware of. The power of those words cannot be overestimated. I've personally witnessed this a number of times from patients that I have seen. In summary, our bodies are nothing more than the physical interpretation of our memories. The physical interpretation of our memories. One large study that surveyed hundreds of thousands of people showed that the two factors at the top of the hierarchy that can predict the progression of chronic disease is the perception of self-happiness and job satisfaction. So it's not surprising that statistically most people die on Monday morning at 9 o'clock. After the weekend, they would rather die than face the grueling episode of yet another day at work, which grossly dissatisfies them. Most scientists generally believe that things are all random. Just flicking a coin every time, the universe does not work like this. The mystery is, if everything is so random, then how is everything so infinitely tuned? There's a lot of work in this field to suggest that there is a complex or complex self-organizing systems where A controls B, that it always comes back to control A. A gene, for example, will produce a protein, but that protein will always come back to control the gene. We can say that it is self-organized, purposive, recurrent, sentient, differentiating with precision, complementarity, all are part of the evolutionary consciousness. Information gives rise to form in a very fundamental level. Let me leave you with one final fascinating thought. Given that we live in an age of information technology where information is becoming denser and more complex in self-organizing systems, this information can indeed change our genes, not the ones we're wearing. The karma of our consciousness is enclosed in genes. As this information comes to us through communication and information technology, it will lead to an evolutionary shift, one that will lead to more light, more truth, transparency, more love, empathy, compassion, goodness, evolution, interconnectedness, joy, and empathy. No one will disagree that we need more of these spiritual gifts in our lives today, as always. I strongly believe that we are living in an exciting era where all this is happening. Think about how complex and dense information and information technology is becoming in the world today. If that information on a quantum level, if you like, can actually affect our biology, and if it can affect the evolution of our genetic makeup so that we can encompass these spiritual gifts of love and empathy and compassion and honesty and transparency. And we read every day in the media that more and more whistleblowers are coming out. People are tending to react to injustices. People want more transparency. They want more honesty from their politicians, from their bankers, and other people in power. So there is indeed an evolutionary shift that is taking place where more and more light workers are coming out. Of course, whenever there's light, there's darkness, and there will be clashes between the light and the darkness. But this is transitory. We need to brave our way forward. We need to continue to be honest with ourselves and with others. Everything is consciousness. We take nothing to the other side with us in terms of material things. We take whatever we seed the universal consciousness with while we are still alive. And if we can seed the universal consciousness with more love and empathy, then certainly the world and the next generations will benefit from that, because it is in the universal consciousness, the memory of universal consciousness, which all generations will tap into, and they will feed from it. So let's this was probably one of the most difficult of videos for me to make, because it moves away from the mechanistic approach to science, and it's a more esoteric approach. However, the older I get, the more I realize that everything is consciousness, and the more we can work on these spiritual elements of ourselves, the more the richer we become, and the richer others around us become, because once these spiritual elements begin to evolve in a person, then inevitably that person becomes a more loving person. So they tend to give more to others as opposed to taking more, which seems to be the premise of the world that we live in, to be competitive, to be better than others, to want to have more than others, as opposed to having more in our hearts than others. That makes one a lot richer than the one that has more in their pocket. And the one that gives more is certainly richer than the one who doesn't. So I wanted to take these complex concepts of quantum theory and consciousness and relate it to health, because there is a direct relationship that cannot be refuted, cannot be ignored. The paradigm of science wanting to be evidence-based also needs to change, because as we've seen in the presentation today, the observer can make a huge difference to the result of the actual experiment, or whether the observer is watching, observing, or not observing, and what they're focusing their attention on can make a huge difference to the results of the experiment. Conventional science, and I grew up in conventional science, is very fixated and quite dogmatic about the double-blind placebo-controlled trials being evidence-based. But how do they explain all these phenomena that we've discussed today? They can't, using that conventional model. However, if we make a paradigm shift from the conventional model to one of consciousness, where we are thinking in terms of the quantum world, where these subatomic particles, which we're all made of, actually behave in very strange ways that even quantum physicists cannot explain, then we automatically will undergo an evolutionary shift to becoming more spiritual beings. And this is where we all need to be in the world at large. Blessings of truth and love to you all.